Hi everyone, and welcome to your second lesson, week 9 inquiry. So as you know, your inquiry lessons this week are closely related to writing lessons and your information report topic. And the reason why we did this is to really indicate and show you that information reports can be about topics. They don't have to be about things. Okay, so usually many students write an information report about animals, but here we're going to write an information report about an issue or a topic that you'd like to educate other people on. So our success criteria is to identify my topic, list the information I still need, apply your skill of paraphrasing, which you learned how to do last week in reading, and then transfer your research to writing. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is you need to make sure that you've got everything in front of you. So that requires your inquiry book and your writing book, because you would have information in both of these books as you are doing your research and drafting your information report. If you're not doing this in different books, if it's just the one, fantastic. If you're someone that's doing their learning on different papers, then take some time to gather everything that you've done so far and bring it in front of you, okay? Because without that, you won't be able to successfully do this lesson. So I'm hoping that everyone knows the inquiry topic by now, since we've had 2 or 3 sessions on it. What we need to do is we now need to think about everything that we've covered in our research so far and identify the information that we still need. Okay, so in the previous lesson, I spoke about how the topic which I had chosen to model to you was cultural stereotyping of Aboriginal people. And within that main topic, I had 3 smaller topics. So cultural stereotyping in the media, history of Aboriginal people, and impact of cultural stereotyping on Aboriginal people. Okay, so I had a look at my data, everything that I've collected, all my research, and I feel pretty comfortable about cultural stereotyping in the media. However, I definitely need more research on history of Aboriginal people and the impact of cultural stereotyping on Aboriginal peoples. So I can explain the impact, but I don't have any concrete evidence or data to support what I'm explaining to my reader. So I definitely need to do a bit more research about that. This is such an important part in the research process, identifying what you have and identifying what you need to research more about. Otherwise, you might be wasting your time researching information that you already know. Okay, so once you have identified what you need to do more research about, then you need to create some questions that are going to help you identify the information you need. So I've highlighted history of Aboriginal peoples and and the impact of cultural stereotyping. So I'm not just going to go into Google and type in history of Aboriginal peoples. That is going to give me a very broad return, which means, you know, if I've gone into a library and I've gone to the aisle which is about history of Aboriginal people, I'm going to get thousands of different books because there are so many books within this topic. It's too broad. So we need to think, how can we make this topic more specific? What do I specifically want to know about to include into my information report? Okay, same goes with impact of cultural stereotyping. if we type into Google, it's too broad and we're going to get many different results. So we want to make it more specific. Okay, so take the time to have a bit of a think of what would be a good question to research. So some examples that I came up with is, what is the percentage of Aboriginal peoples that live in the city? Okay, and this is going to help me understand where Aboriginal peoples are living at the moment, which will then connect to the impact of cultural stereotyping on Aboriginal peoples. So I'm going to take this question and I'm going to paste it into Google. And I'm going to see what I get. Now, before we actually go into that, when we inquire into a topic, it means to investigate and to look into. And when you think about investigators or detectives, they look at the specific details. So they will start really broad, but then as they go further into their investigation, they become more and more and more specific, and they really look for those details and important clues. Okay, so when you research, I want you to think of yourself as a detective. Okay, and as a detective, you need to pay attention to detail in what you've researched to then be able to have focused further research on your topic. Okay, so we really want to avoid conducting research on very broad Google entries. Okay, so I've pasted that into Google and I can already see some information here. And what we want to do is we actually want to scroll down, up and down the first page and really pay attention to the website link. So where is this information coming from? So reading about this, and I'm not actually reading it word for word, I'm just scanning, which means I'm looking through it and I'm picking up some of the information. And I can see that it's comparing some data from 1996 to 2016. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down, and that is from abs.gov.au. So we know this is a reliable website because it is a .gov website. So it's a government website. I'm going to keep scrolling down. There is creativespirits.info, another .gov.org, .gov.gov.org. So if I can actually have a look at all of these returns, I can see that I would say all of them are reliable information because they're a .gov or .org website, and this is where we want to get most of our information from. The only one that doesn't have .gov or .org is creativespirits.info. But if we click on creativespirits.info and we scroll down, they have a lot of statistics and they have a lot of data. So even though it's not a .org or .gov, they're still a reliable website. Okay. However, they probably won't be my first choice. I would probably go to the abs.gov and see if I can learn more information. Okay, so what I really want to know is a percentage of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that live in major cities. Okay, so if I have a look at this over here, so it says it's from 2016, and these are the percentages. So we've got urban areas and rural areas. So urban areas are close to the city or around a city, and the rural areas are more the countryside and the outback. So this is really the information I want. I want a percentage. So I might not worry about the individual percentages, but I'll probably focus on the total Australia percentage, which is 79% and 20.4%. So I'm going to go and write that down into my research, and I'm basically done there. I don't need to go any further. I've got my information from a very reliable website. And at the same time, I was actually able to answer my following question, which is what is the percentage of Aboriginal peoples that live in remote areas? Okay. Then I really want to know more about impact of cultural stereotyping on Aboriginal people. So again, I've come up with a question, but then I thought a little bit deeper and I came up with a more specific question. So instead of just the impact, I want to know more about employment opportunities. So then I'm going to paste into Google what impacts employment opportunities for Aboriginal peoples. Okay. I'm not going to go through it now because I've already shown you how to do it once and the thinking process required throughout your research. However, I really want to stress that it's important to make your question specific. So one last example, in terms of the history of Aboriginal peoples, I really want to know about the racism towards in Australian history, and I'll probably make that more specific and write towards Aboriginal peoples. And again, that's pretty broad. I think that's going to give me a lot of different results. So I want to really focus on the poor treatment of Aboriginal people. Okay, so have a think about how you might go about making your question specific to make sure that you are using your time effectively and you are not researching broad topics. So here are some websites to get you started, but you can, of course, do your own research as well. Lastly, it's really important that we reflect on what we've done this session. So on a scale from 1 to 5, how successful was your research? It's really important to explain your thinking, and you can record this so you don't have to write it, but please post it to Seesaw alongside of your task. All right, have fun.